The grand chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with an otherworldly shine as Ambassador James Walker took his first steps into humanity's future. The massive room stretched upward for what seemed like miles, with floating platforms holding representatives from over 300 alien species. Their varied forms, some gaseous, others crystalline, and many humanoid, created a living rainbow of colors against the pearl-white walls. Walker straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and gripped his presentation tablet tighter. After 6 months of preparation following first contact, Earth was finally ready to present its case for joining the Galactic Council. The human race had achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago, and this was their chance to join the greater galactic community. Species 4173, designation Humans of Sol System. Earth, you may begin your presentation, announced Lord Bright, the council speaker. His crystalline form sparkled as he spoke, each word accompanied by pulses of light. Walker activated his universal translator and began the carefully prepared speech. Honorable members of the council, I stand before you representing humanity and Earth. We bring greetings and hope to join your esteemed organization as peaceful members of the galactic community. The presentation went smoothly as Walker showed humanity's achievements, their cities, their art, their scientific advances. The council members watched with polite interest until he reached the military section. And for defense, we maintain a fleet of ships equipped with railguns, coilguns, and various projectile weapon systems, Walker explained, showing images of Earth's most advanced warships. A burst of laughter echoed through the chamber. Walker paused, confused. You mean to tell us, said a gaseous being from the upper tier, that your species still uses physical projectiles in space? More laughter followed. Walker felt his face grow hot but maintained his diplomatic composure. Our kinetic weapon systems have proved highly effective. Effective? Interrupted another council member, this one a tall, elegant being with silvery skin. We abandoned such primitive weapons thousands of years ago. Our ships use plasma cannons, particle beams, and energy weapons that can slice through asteroids. Lord Bright raised a crystalline appendage for silence. Ambassador Walker, while we appreciate your presentation, we have concerns. Your species still relies on throwing metal pieces at high speed for warfare. This is problematic. With respect, Walker replied, our weapons are precisely engineered. A new voice cut in. We watched your ships during approach. They leak radiation from your primitive nuclear drives. Your weapons would be useless against even basic energy shields. The technology gap is too great. Walker tried to explain the advantages of kinetic weapons in space combat, but his words were drowned out by more chuckles and dismissive comments. He noticed some representatives had stopped paying attention entirely, their forms turned away or engaged in private conversations. Lord Bright's form pulsed with what seemed like patronizing kindness. Ambassador, your species shows promise in art and culture. However, we cannot accept members who are so far behind technologically. It would be dangerous. For you, primarily. Return when you have developed proper energy-based weapons and adequate shielding technology. But our tests show, Walker began. This meeting is concluded, Lord Bright announced. The Council votes to deny Earth's application for membership. We recommend a development period of no less than 50 standard years before reapplication. Walker stood there, feeling the weight of 300 alien species dismissal. As he gathered his presentation materials, he overheard snippets of conversation from nearby platforms. Can you imagine? Metal projectiles. Like children with slingshots. They'll never survive the outer rings with such weapons. Perhaps we should send them some basic shield technology out of pity. With his head held high, Walker walked out of the chamber. In his earpiece, he heard a secure communication ping. Ambassador, this is Defense Command. Did they dismiss our weapons like we predicted? Walker kept his voice low as he headed toward his ship, exactly as expected. They don't believe physical projectiles are viable in modern space combat. Perfect. sending this confirmation to Operation Silent Thunder. Let them laugh while they can. As his ship departed the Council station, Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Council's dismissal of human weapons technology would prove to be their greatest mistake. But that revelation would come later, and it would come at a very high price for those who had laughed. Intelligence Officer Mark Stone stared at his computer screen in the dim light of his office on Luna Base. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, and he didn't like the picture they formed. For 3 months, he had been tracking unusual ship movements along Earth's trade routes, and now he knew why. Computer, display case file 2157B again, he commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing images of destroyed human cargo ships. Each wreck told the same story. Precision strikes that shouldn't have been possible from simple pirates. Stone rubbed his tired eyes. The attacks had started just 2 weeks after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council. At first, they seemed like regular pirate raids, but the pattern was too perfect, too coordinated. He pulled up another image, a damaged pirate ship captured on a merchant vessel's cameras. There, barely visible on its hull, was the manufacturing mark of a Council species. His computer beeped with an incoming priority message. "Officer Stone," a voice came through. "Admiral Reed needs you in command immediately." 10 minutes later, Stone stood before a group of Earth's highest-ranking military officers. The command center's main screen showed a live feed from the colony ship New Hope, now drifting in space with severe damage to its engines. Admiral Reed's voice was grim. "Another attack. 3rd one this week. But this time, we got something interesting." He nodded to a technician who played the ship's security footage. The video showed sleek alien ships appearing from nowhere, their energy weapons blazing. But what caught Stone's attention was their tactical formation. It was a standard Council peacekeeping approach, one that wasn't public knowledge. "Those aren't pirates," Stone said. "They're trained military. Council military." "Exactly," Reed replied. "And look at this." He zoomed in on one of the attacking ships. "Those shields. Brand new Council technology. The same kind they mocked us for not having." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Someone was arming pirates with advanced Council technology, and the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. "We filed a complaint with the Council this morning," Reed continued. "Want to guess their response?" Stone already knew. "Let me guess." They dismissed it, called it local criminal activity outside their jurisdiction. Reed's face hardened. "They're testing us, seeing how we handle their fancy weapons, but they've made 3 big mistakes." Stone looked up from his datapad. "What mistakes?" "First," Reed held up a finger, "they think we're blind. Second, they think we're helpless." A small smile crossed his face. "And third, they still think our weapons are primitive." The Admiral pressed a button, and the main screen changed to show a massive shipyard hidden on the dark side of Luna. There, dozens of ships were under construction, ships that looked nothing like the ones in Earth's public records. "Operation Silent Thunder is ahead of schedule," Reed announced. "While the Council laughs at our primitive weapons, we've been busy. Stone, your intelligence work confirmed our suspicions. Now we can move to the next phase." Stone watched as the screen showed their new ships. They looked simple compared to Council vessels. No glowing energy weapons, no shimmering shield generators, just clean lines and large railgun turrets. But appearances were deceiving. "Sir," Stone said, "when the Council finds out." "That's the beauty of it," Reed interrupted. "They won't find out until it's too late. Their shields are calibrated to stop energy weapons and plasma. They've never faced a tungsten rod traveling at 30% light speed." A junior officer raised his hand. "But sir, won't they detect our fleet buildup?" Reed's smile grew wider. "Why would they bother scanning for primitive technology? Their arrogance is our best camouflage." As the meeting concluded, Stone gathered his files. The next few months would be crucial. Earth would play weak, play primitive, let the Council-backed pirates grow bolder. But in the darkness of space, humanity's primitive fleet was growing, preparing. The Council had laughed at human weapons. Soon, they would learn that sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones. And in the cold equations of space combat, a solid piece of metal moving at relativistic speeds cared nothing for energy shields or advanced technology. It just did what it was designed to do, hit its target. The attack on Novaterra should have been just another raid. The pirate fleet, confident in their Council-provided shields, dropped out of hyperspace above humanity's largest colony. Their energy weapons lit up the night sky as they approached the seemingly defenseless planet. But this time was different. Deep in Novaterra's military command bunker, General Emma Hayes watched the enemy fleet's approach on her tactical display. Her finger hovered over a simple red button. 6 months of waiting, of playing weak, had led to this moment. "All ships in position," reported her tactical officer. "Enemy fleet is inside the engagement zone." Hayes pressed the button. Operation Silent Thunder is now active, weapons free. In the darkness of space around Novaterra, 50 human warships dropped their stealth fields. They had been waiting there for 3 days, completely invisible to the pirates' advanced sensors. The ships looked plain. None of the glowing engines or shimmering shields of Council vessels. Just dark metal and long gun barrels. The pirate fleet noticed them too late. "First volley, fire," Hayes ordered. The human ships fired as one. There was no bright energy beam, no glowing plasma bolt, just the silent launch of hundreds of tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. On the pirate ships, alarms blared as their sensors detected incoming objects. Their commanders laughed, mere physical projectiles against their advanced shields. They didn't even bother to dodge. That was their last mistake. The tungsten rods passed through their energy shields like they weren't even there. Physics didn't care about their advanced technology. Mass times velocity equals impact force, and these rods were moving very, very fast. The first pirate ship simply vanished, transformed into expanding gas and metal fragments. The second spun wildly, its entire front section missing. The third split in half as a rod passed through its reactor core. "By all the stars," whispered Hayes' tactical officer, "their shields didn't stop a single shot." In the pirate fleet, panic spread. Their commanders had never seen shields fail so completely. They tried to return fire, their energy weapons lighting up space with beautiful but useless displays. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. "Launch second volley. All batteries, continuous fire. Show them what human guns can really do." The space around Novaterra lit up with railgun fire. The pirates' shields, designed to stop energy weapons, might as well have been tissue paper against kinetic rounds. Ship after ship disappeared in balls of fire and debris. A few pirate ships managed to turn around, attempting to flee. Hayes keyed her calm. "Remember, we need one intact for questioning. Disable the largest ship trying to escape." Her gunners were precise. Carefully placed shots destroyed the target's engines while leaving its hull mostly intact. The remaining pirates jumped into hyperspace, leaving their disabled companion behind. "Enemy vessels secured," reported her tactical officer. "Boarding teams are ready." Hayes nodded. "Send them in, and get me a casualty report." The numbers came in quickly. 0 human casualties. 47 enemy ships destroyed. 1 captured. The entire battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. In the captured ships database, they found exactly what they expected. Proof of Council involvement. Weapons specifications, tactical protocols, even direct communication logs with Council military advisors. Hayes opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Reed, Operation Silent Thunder Phase 1 is complete. The enemy's shields were useless against kinetic weapons, just as we predicted." "Excellent work, General." Reed's voice came back. "And the survivors?" "They're quite talkative," Hayes replied. "Apparently, Watching your impenetrable shields fail is rather demoralizing. They've confirmed everything. The Council's involvement, the weapon supplies, all of it. Perfect. The Council's emergency session starts in 1 hour. They're demanding explanations for the destruction of their peaceful trading vessels. Reed's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Time to show them what primitive human weapons can really do. As Hayes looked at the tactical display, now clear of enemy ships, she thought about the Council's laughter 6 months ago. They had called human weapons primitive, outdated, useless. They weren't laughing anymore. And this was just the beginning. The Council chamber was no longer filled with laughter. Instead, a tense silence hung in the air as Lord Bright's crystalline form pulsed with barely contained rage. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the destruction of their pirate fleet at Novaterra. This is an outrage. Lord Bright's voice boomed through the chamber. Humans have destroyed peaceful trading vessels without provocation. Ambassador Walker stood calmly at the speaker's platform, playing a recording from the captured ship. The voice of a Council military advisor filled the chamber, giving instructions to the pirates. The evidence was undeniable. Peaceful traders don't carry military-grade weapons, Walker said quietly. And they certainly don't have Council tactical protocols. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. A coalition of Council races immediately called for action against Earth. Lord Bright raised his crystalline appendages for silence. Very well, he announced. The Council hereby declares humans a dangerous species. A peacekeeping fleet will be dispatched immediately to contain this threat. Walker smiled slightly. I would strongly advise against that. They ignored his warning. 3 days later, the Council's response arrived at Alpha Centauri. 500 ships, the largest peacekeeping fleet ever assembled, dropped out of hyperspace. Their energy weapons charge, shields humming with power that could withstand any known weapon in the galaxy. Any known weapon, except one. Admiral Thomas Reed stood on the bridge of the EFSS Thunder, watching the Council fleet approach. Unlike the pirates, these ships were properly organized, their formations perfect. They probably expected the humans to surrender immediately. All ships, battle positions, Reed ordered. They want to see what human weapons can do. Let's give them a proper demonstration. The Council fleet moved forward confidently. Their commander's voice boomed across all channels. Primitive humans, power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile against our superior technology. Reed pressed his comm button. This is Admiral Reed of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are violating human space. Withdraw immediately, or we will open fire. The only response was laughter, just like in the Council chamber months ago. Very well, Reed said quietly. All ships, execute Battle Plan Thor. The human fleet split into 3 groups, moving with precision that surprised the Council commanders. They had expected chaos, primitive tactics. Instead, they faced a well-oiled machine. The Council fleet fired first, their energy weapons lighting up space. Beautiful beams of plasma and energy lanced out towards the human ships. But the humans had learned from the pirate raids. Their ships rolled, presenting heavily armored sides. The energy weapons splashed harmlessly against the thick metal plates, specifically designed to disperse energy attacks. Our turn, Reed said. All batteries, open fire. The human response was devastating. Thousands of railgun rounds crossed space in seconds. The Council's shields, optimized to stop energy weapons, might as well have been non-existent. The first volley alone destroyed 30 Council ships. Impossible. The Council commander's voice cracked with panic. Their primitive weapons can't. His transmission cut off as his flagship split in half, victim of a particularly well-aimed shot. The Council fleet tried to regroup, but they had never trained for this. Their tactics, their technology, their entire military doctrine was based on energy weapon combat. Against simple kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds, they had no defense. Target their engines, Reed ordered. Let's leave some of them alive to carry our message. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, 300 council ships were destroyed. Another 100 were disabled, their engines torn apart by precise railgun fire. The remaining 100 fled in panic, jumping to hyperspace with their shields still sparking uselessly. Reed opened a channel to Earth Command. Alpha Centauri secure. Council fleet has been neutralized. Minimal damage to our forces. The response came quickly. Well done, Admiral. The Council has called an emergency session. Apparently, they're very interested in discussing peace terms now. Reed looked at the debris field that was once the Council's mighty fleet. Their superior technology had failed completely against humanity's primitive weapons. Send them a message, Reed said. Tell them we're willing to discuss peace, but first, they might want to reconsider their opinion about human weapons. The Battle of Alpha Centauri marked a turning point. The Council had come to punish the primitive humans. They left understanding a simple truth. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways. And human guns still had plenty more to say. 1 month after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, humanity revealed its ultimate weapon. The Council had called it primitive. They would soon call it terrifying. General Emma Hayes stood in Earth's orbital command station, watching the demonstration screens with Ambassador Walker and several Council representatives. The aliens had come to negotiate peace, but Earth had one final point to make. What you're about to see, Hayes explained, is our new orbital defense system. We call it the Thunder Grid. In high orbit around a distant test planet, 30 satellites quietly drifted. They looked simple, just metal boxes with long tubes pointing outward. No fancy energy fields, no glowing parts. The Council representatives looked unimpressed. "These are your advanced weapons?" one asked, his tentacles waving dismissively. "They don't even have shields." Hayes smiled. "They don't need shields. Watch." She pressed a button on her console. Thunder Grid. Execute test fire Alpha. The satellites came alive. Each tube began launching tungsten rods, but these were different from regular railgun rounds. These rods were bigger, specially designed for orbital strikes. "The rods are simple," Hayes explained as they watched. "Just solid tungsten, about 20 feet long, dropped from orbit. No explosives, no energy weapons, pure kinetic energy." The first rod hit the test planet's surface. The impact was visible from orbit, a flash of light brighter than a nuclear bomb. When the dust cleared, a crater 2 miles wide remained. The Council representatives stepped back from the screen, their confidence shaken. Each rod, Hayes continued, hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon. No radiation, no fallout, just physics. And the best part, she pointed to the screen. No known shield can stop them. Walker stepped forward. "We've installed Thunder Grid satellites around every human world. Any fleet that enters orbit will face kinetic bombardment from above. No warning, no defense." But this is impossible," one Council member stuttered. "Such weapons are too simple to be effective against modern defenses." Hayes brought up another screen, showing recordings from Alpha Centauri. "Your fleet's destruction proves otherwise. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution." The Council representatives huddled together, speaking quickly in their own language. Finally, one turned back. "We wish to propose an immediate peace treaty." "Of course," Walker smiled. "Earth is always ready for peaceful dialogue. However, there are conditions." The next hour was a flurry of diplomatic activity. The Council, faced with the reality of human weapons, agreed to every term. Full membership for Earth in the Galactic Council, recognition of all human territories, and most importantly, acknowledgement that human military technology was equal to Council standards. As the Council representatives hurried back to their ships, Hayes turned to Walker. "They're scared." "Good," Walker replied. "Fear will keep them honest. They thought they could bully us because our weapons were primitive. Now they know better." Hayes looked at the screens showing the Thunder Grid in action. More tests were being conducted, each impact leaving massive craters on the test planet's surface. It's ironic. They spent thousands of years developing energy weapons and shields. We just made gravity work for us. That's humanity's strength, Walker said. We don't overcomplicate things. While they were building fancy energy weapons, we perfected the art of throwing rocks really, really fast. Reports began coming in from across human space. Council ships were withdrawing from all border areas. The pirates had disappeared completely. The mere presence of Thunder Grid satellites was enough to keep the peace. In the council chambers, the mood had changed dramatically. The species that had once laughed at human weapons now studied them carefully. Some had already begun developing their own kinetic weapon systems, finally realizing that sometimes old technology was the best technology. What do you think they learned from all this? Hayes asked, watching the council ships depart. Walker laughed. Never laugh at someone's weapons until you've seen them in action. And maybe, just maybe, throwing rocks is still one of the most effective ways to win a fight. The Thunder Grid satellites continued their silent orbit, a testament to humanity's approach to space warfare. They weren't fancy. They weren't high-tech. They just worked. And in the end, that was all that mattered. 6 months after the Thunder Grid demonstration, the Galactic Council's main military academy looked very different. In a large lecture hall, Admiral Thomas Reed stood before 200 alien officers, teaching them something they never expected to learn: human warfare. The principle is simple, Reed explained, pointing to a diagram of a railgun. Kinetic energy doesn't care about your shield frequency. It doesn't care about energy dispersion. Mass times velocity is all that matters. The alien officers, once proud of their energy weapons, took careful notes. In the back of the room, Ambassador Walker watched with amusement. The same species that had laughed at human weapons now struggled to understand them. We've received 700 requests for military cooperation, Walker whispered to General Hayes, who stood beside him. Every council race wants to learn about primitive human weapons now. Hayes smiled. Funny how quickly opinions change when you're on the wrong end of a railgun. The changes weren't just in the classroom. Across council space, shipyards began producing new vessel designs. The sleek, shield-heavy ships of the past were replaced by heavily armored craft with large gun turrets. Some looked almost exactly like human vessels. In orbit around the Council's capital world, a new defense station was under construction. Its design was simple, functional, and distinctly human. The Council had finally admitted that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Admiral Reed, a young alien officer, raised an appendage. If kinetic weapons are so effective, why did the Council abandon them? Reed's answer was diplomatic but clear. Sometimes people mistake complexity for advancement. They forget that simple solutions often work best. After the lecture, Reed met with the Council's military command. The large chamber was filled with holograms showing new ship designs, all featuring human-style weapons alongside traditional energy arms. Your kinetic weapon designs are approved, the Council's military chief announced. We'll begin production immediately. Remember, Reed cautioned, these weapons require different tactics. Your crews will need extensive training. Already arranged, the chief replied. We've approved a joint training program with human instructors. Our pride cost us dearly in the last conflict. We won't make that mistake again. Across the room, weapons testing footage played on multiple screens. Council ships firing railguns alongside plasma beams. Armored hulls deflecting energy weapons. The marriage of human and Council technology was creating something new. In the shipyards, the first hybrid vessels were taking shape. They combined the best of both worlds, human kinetic weapons and Council energy technology. These ships were more powerful than anything either civilization had built alone. Did you ever imagine this? Walker asked Hayes as they watched construction through a viewport. Them copying our primitive technology. Hayes shook her head. The real victory isn't them copying our weapons. It's them admitting they were wrong. The evidence of change was everywhere. Council security forces now carried projectile weapons alongside their energy guns. Defense platforms combined shield technology with thick armor plates. Even civilian ships were being retrofitted with basic railgun defenses. In the Council's technology division, human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, developing new hybrid systems. They found that combining physical armor with energy shields created nearly impenetrable defenses. Kinetic weapons paired with plasma beams could overcome almost any protection. The Council's military budget report came in. Walker told Hayes later that day. They're spending more on kinetic weapon research than energy weapons for the first time in their history. And the pirates? Hayes asked. Gone completely. Turns out energy shields aren't so appealing when everyone has guns that can punch right through them. As day turned to night on the Council world, Reed stood at a viewport watching ships practice their new tactics. Council vessels, once graceful and lightly armored, now moved with purpose and power. Their new guns gleamed in the starlight. We've started a revolution, Walker said, joining him at the window. Reed nodded. They laughed at our guns. Now they're building their own. Humanity's gift to the galaxy, Walker mused. Teaching them that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. The stars twinkled as more ships practiced their maneuvers. Each one carried human-designed weapons, a testament to how quickly the galaxy had changed. And it all started because they laughed at human guns. 1 year after the Great Conflict, the Galactic Council chamber had changed dramatically. Where once pure energy technology had dominated, now hybrid human council designs protected the Grand Hall. Railgun turrets sat alongside plasma cannons, a perfect symbol of the new galactic order. Ambassador James Walker stood at the same podium where the Council had once laughed at human weapons. But today was different. Today, Earth would take its rightful place among the stars. By unanimous vote, Lord Bright announced, his crystalline form glowing with formal dignity, Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges thereof. The chamber erupted in applause. Genuine this time, not the polite mockery of the past. Walker noticed many representatives wore ceremonial pistols alongside their energy weapons, a new fashion that had spread through council space. Admiral Reed and General Hayes sat in the human section, watching as Walker accepted Earth's membership credentials. Both wore small smiles, remembering how different this chamber had felt just 1 year ago. Let the record show, Lord Bright continued, that humanity has not just joined our council, but has fundamentally improved it. Their military doctrine is now required study at all council academies. In the year since the conflict, the galaxy had changed. The council's military forces had been completely reorganized along human lines. Ships now carried both energy and kinetic weapons. Every defense station had a thunder grid array. The pirates that once plagued trade routes had vanished, unable to cope with the new reality of space combat. Furthermore, Lord Bright announced, the Council formally recognizes the Thunder Grid as the most significant defensive innovation in the last 1,000 years. All member species are authorized to construct these systems under human supervision. Walker stepped forward to speak. A year ago, this chamber rang with laughter at our primitive weapons. Today, those same weapons guard this very chamber. We learned an important lesson. True advancement isn't about complexity. It's about effectiveness. The council members nodded in agreement. Their own worlds were now protected by hybrid defense systems. Many had found that combining human kinetic weapons with their energy technology created something far more powerful than either alone. In recognition of humanity's contribution, Lord Bright declared, the Council's military committee will now be co-chaired by Admiral Reed. His first task will be overseeing the integration of human military doctrine throughout Council space. Reed stood to accept the position. A year ago, these same beings had mocked his fleet's weapons. Now they sought his guidance. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. After the ceremony, Walker joined Reed and Hayes in the chamber's observation deck. Below them, the Council Capitol sprawled, its defenses now a mix of old and new. Thunder Grid satellites orbited alongside energy platforms. Armored ships patrolled with both gun turrets and plasma cannons. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" Hayes asked, watching a human-designed defense ship pass below. "Not really," Walker admitted. "I expected them to eventually accept our weapons. I didn't expect them to embrace them so completely." Reed pointed to a newly installed defensive battery. "Look at that. Railguns right next to plasma cannons. Perfect symbol of the new order." The changes went beyond just military technology. Council species had started adopting other human approaches, realizing that sometimes older, simpler solutions worked better. Their previous obsession with complexity had given way to a new appreciation for practical effectiveness. "The Council's head researcher told me something interesting," Hayes said. "They found old records showing their ancestors used projectile weapons, just like us. They abandoned them in pursuit of advanced technology, and now they're rediscovering them." Walker nodded, coming full circle. As night fell on the Council world, the new defense systems lit up the sky. Energy shields shimmed alongside armored plates. Railguns stood ready next to plasma batteries. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed it. "You know what the best part is?" Reed said, watching the defenses. "Nobody's laughing anymore." Walker smiled. "No, they're not. Instead, they're learning." And that was humanity's greatest victory. Not just proving their weapons worked, but teaching the galaxy that sometimes the oldest solutions were still the best solutions. The Council had laughed at human guns. Now they relied on them.